Good afternoon and thank you for coming to our presentation. My name is Hannah.
My name is Diana.
My name is Uzma.
My name is Ibrahima.
And we will be doing our presentation on the Royal Bank of Scotland.
RBS was founded in 1727. It's got more than 30 million customers across the globe, within 700 branches across Europe, Asia, Middle East and North America.
The former chief executive, Fred Goodwin, was said to have an aggressive, micromanaging style. This created a culture of fear, as employees were scared to speak out in fear of losing their jobs. The style of management and leadership was a major attributing factor to the downfall of RBS. Fred Goodwin's attitude resulted in the June takeover of Dutch bank ABN. This was a major factor in why RBN failed. The style of management and leadership led to an economic violent culture. This made senior managers and managers feel very uncomfortable under the reign of Fred Goodwin. The completing values model, put in 2003, shows that within RBS there was very little flexibility for everyone, and there was no open communication within employees. Employees could not talk to each other as they were living in fear of the repercussions of any of their actions. The completing values model also suggests that RBS was towards the rational goal, as they wanted to be the best bank in the world. Charles Hardy's theory suggests that RBS had a power culture within their business, as all the power was dominated under Fred Goodwin's reign. RBS had a very organizational structure, as Fred Goodwin had all control of all decision and goals. The environment in which RBS works in is a very competitive industry, as there are very predominant rivals within that industry. After the bailout in 2008 by the British government, the new chief executive, Ross McEwen, had unveiled a new structure in regards to the ring fencing in Britain. RBS have changed their goal to become the bank with the best customer services in the UK and in the Republic of Ireland by 2020. The culture of RBS has changed since the departure of
Cutting the branches is an
It has
effective
become more open towards its employees
is an
and
effective
staff,
business
and has made
decision.
it better,
But
a
however,
better working environment for them.
the United Scotland
Ross McEwen
has
made the environment more
has
healthy
described the
by
bank
making
decision
employees feel
as a moral
comfortable and at
bankruptcy.
ease at work.
So they're basing their idea based on the bank's profit, because
The structure of the organisation
earlier
has
this
changed
month,
drastically as well. Instead of a power
like in March,
organisation, it
RBS
has moved on to a task role kind of organisation. The culture has also changed from a power culture to a role/task culture. It has become more revolved around the employees and where they feel comfortable working in. And Ross McEwen has made sure that the culture strives towards the goal to become the best customer services by 2020. The culture within the organisation has also changed. From a power culture, it has now become a role and task culture, where employees are delegated roles to help improve their customer services. The structure of the organisation has also changed into the divisional structure, where all
RBS
divisions
announced a
have their
profit
own
of
targets, but all working towards the same goal.
millions compared to 259
One
million
of the main
the
factors
same year
which RBS
last
is very aware of
the same
is the
period
failure
last
of
year.
Fred Goodwin's
So they are looking at
and
this.
how that
The
led to
reason
the
why
downfall
this
of
profit
RBS.
has increased widely was because of the cutting of the branches.
For RBS to achieve their goal as having the best customer service, they need to regain the trust that they have lost previously. The lack of trust consumers have will be an obstacle that RBS has to pass, as consumers have lost a lot of faith in RBS and other banks due to the 2008 financial crisis. The lack of trust consumers have will be an obstacle for RBS to pass, as consumers have lost their faith and felt that RBS has betrayed them due to the 2008 financial crisis.
So now we're going to talk about the PESTEL model within the RBS, starting with political and legal. So since the banking crisis in 2008, the government have imposed new regulations, the Banking Act of 2009. This means that all banks, including RBS, must show transparency and allow customers to switch banks and find a deal that's better for them. The implications of this is, however, where there is strict rules, there is a fear that the banks will move their head office from the City of London to other countries that don't have strict rules. When the voters announced that England would be leaving the EU, London became worried about the trading issues that would occur. The EU27 summit have argued a transitional period of December 2020. However, there are rules called ring fencing, which means that a total restructural reform of RBS needs to be completed by the 1st of January 2019. Now we're going to move on to the social and technological side. RBS have been heavily criticised in the past for their lack of communication and customer service. Back in 2012 and 2013, there was a systematic glitch that stopped upwards of 25 million people accessing their bank accounts and withdrawing money. Subsequently, RBS had to pay compensation to each customer that was affected. Since then, they have stated on their website that they need to improve more and help with more important things. They believe that doing the automation and the technology side of it would streamline customers' journey. RBS have also invested heavily in their employees, making now they have at least 10,000 employees that have a professional banking certificate. The environmental side, RBS set targets to reach 20% reduction in carbon, 5% reduction in water uses and 50% reduction in paper uses, which was reached in 2016. To stay a more proactive bank, they have set more ambitious targets to reach by 2020, and these are in sight to be achieved. The economical side, the banking crisis of 2008, the RBS is bailed out by the government by using taxpayers' money. The economical side, the banking crisis in 2018, RBS was bailed out by the government using taxpayers' money. In 2018, the government lost 2.1 billion by selling these shares, even though in February 2018 RBS reported their first profit in 10 years. However, the interest rates have increased, therefore RBS will have to increase their charges on loans and mortgages. They have looked into the economy and how it will change. However, until we actually leave the EU, no one will really know. Now, the SWOT analysis of the RBS shows that the strengths within RBS are strong within their carbon emission strategy and their employee care scheme. The weaknesses is their share prices and the interest rates, making the market harder for them to stand out of the crowd. And they are being, unfortunately at the moment, portrayed in an unfavourable light within the press. The opportunities, however, do come from where the market is shrinking. They will be able to have an innovation of where to invest their money in the future, what is going to be growing. The threats come from the new regulations and the market strategy that's been put in place by the government. It means that the gap that RBS originally had is now closing. Therefore, other banking businesses are now catching up and becoming a threat to RBS.
It was a directed achievement-oriented style that made the bank by ABM in 2007. It was the decision made by the 18 Board of Directors plus Chief Executive at the time, Sir Fred Goodwin. The decision was purely made by financial incentives, which made the 18 directors by the bank at the time having the main focus on increasing its profit, revenue and assets rather than its capital liquidity and asset quality. The year 2017 was actually the first year in 9 years gap where RBS has actually made a profit of 752 million compared to last year 2016 6 billion losses. This can show that banks should mainly focus on the assets rather than on the return on equity in order to make profit and progress for their shareholders.
Effective planning by management. According to body, planning is a process by which a member of the organization produces a plan. At RBS, there is 3 levels of planning. One is the strategic planning. Strategic planning is done by the non-executive directors. The tactical and the operational planning is done by the executive directors, which is led by Ross Marquardt. RBS use the above diagram in their planning process. Like example, when they were trying to cut down their branches, they use kind of the above one gathering the information. They try to get information from the employees, the customers, and also they develop it into a mission. They try to look like the number of customers that visit the branches and the one that use the mobile transaction. And then later, in evaluating the result, they found out that since 2014, the customers that visit the branches has dropped by 40%, and at the same year, the customers that use the mobile transaction has increased by 73%. So they think like the SWOT analysis of RBS, one, the UK government will support the bank when necessary. So this means that whenever the bank is in a distress, the UK government will come in and then try to help the bank to keep on operating. For example, the acquisition of ABN, when the UK government has to come in and inject 45.5 billion in order to keep the bank operating. The witnesses, they got a lot of law cases. Like example, they have to settle out the US Department of Justice, and this is these things keeping the bank, preventing the bank from paying dividend to their shareholders. Like shareholders have not enjoyed dividend for a decade now, but however recently they just announced a profit, and then they said they're going to pay shareholders dividend at the end of the year. So the opportunities is like they're trying to sell their businesses in order to focus to a small market, which is like quite a very good idea. And also the threat, they're not only the only bank in the UK. They got like they got a couple of banks to compete with, like example Barclays and Lloyds Bank and all that. Motivation. RBS believe employees are the business leaders of the future. But however, this was not the case during the regime of Goodwin, because his style of leadership was highly directive, and RBS internal culture has been described as a culture of fear. So, and also the other thing, staffs are kind of a bit worried. They don't say about their problems, because they always like getting scared of losing their job. And the most interesting thing that I found was good morning management meeting would kind of turn it into a morning prayer. So it's like senior managers are being criticized like for their decision stuff. So the current regime of RBS, they use performance management, which is they're trying to measure the performance of each employees, and they kind of using theories like Frederick Hesberg, which RBS use on their staffs. Like when the staff don't did something, they'll kind of like be given like a job well done for doing that. And Abraham Maslow theory, they kind of inventing that theory, because currently they believe like it's not only money that motivates their staff, but also like other areas. Like for example, they also motivate their staff using their non-financial reward, like example, contributing to a various program that's going to benefit the environment. And finally, according to Unite Scotland, the idea of closing the branches was a kind of demotivating some staff. Thank you for listening to our presentation.